Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the 9K subscriber Q&A. I found an absolute slice of paradise for this Q&A session today. We're on the beautiful island of Zanzibar and it took me an hour motorbike ride to get here. I dare you to find me a Q&A session on YouTube with a better backdrop than this. We've got monkeys knocking about and ants all over the floor. So I'm gonna try and get through all of your wonderful questions submitted on Instagram without getting bitten by anything. Let's crack on. There were loads submitted, loads of funny ones, loads of deep ones, and I'm gonna get through as many as we can today. Don't know how long the video will be. We'll just get going and see where we finish up. All right, question number one. Do you struggle with your testicles shrinking because of all the steroids? No, I don't. I actually have a rare condition where my testicles are 3 times the size of the average man, so I have to take steroids in order to reduce them to the normal size of an average human. That's what the doctor recommended, and so I don't struggle with the testicle shrinkage. It's necessary for me. That, of course, is a joke, and I don't take steroids. Question number 2, where is the best place you've stayed on your travels so far? It's tough. It's between 2, I reckon. One, obviously on that Tao trip where I was sleeping 5 meters from the beach, waves rolling in my own private beach hut on a remote island in the Philippines. That was pretty sweet. Obviously not major luxury, but just like raw with nature. And then the other one was actually last couple of weeks ago in Namibia. Matt and I stayed in this incredible cabin overlooking the Namibian desert. Literally as we were eating breakfast in the morning, there was a hyena walking past 50 meters from us, and we had no one else was staying there when we were there. So we had like a private pool to ourselves, perfect weather, incredible like backdrop. You can see all the way to the horizon, so that was pretty sweet as well. Next one is, so what's your current source of income, man? Well, man, I've basically been saving since the age of 18, well, my whole life, but intentionally since the age of 18. I'm now 26, so 8 years working post-uni, just saving up through COVID, not spending any money, and I knew that I didn't want to live paycheck to paycheck because I wanted to aim towards a better life in the future. So when you're spending what your income is, obviously you've got no leverage to make any moves in the future. So I was saving up for what I thought would be a house, and then decided that I didn't want to buy a house because I didn't want to live in England and I didn't want to keep doing the job I was doing. So it was kind of like a crux point for me, and I thought, let me take this money and use it to become a full-time adventurer. So that's the path we're on now. I left my job a year ago. Using those savings, also have some donations from one major sponsor as well, which is very helpful, especially for this Africa trip. It's helped fund a lot of that. And then I'm going to have one business venture commencing this summer, so you'll become aware of that in the next couple of months when that's launched, to keep adventuring full time. Next question, did you have training in your videographer skills? You do a really great job. That's the question, is it? The last one. Do I have any training? No. I've always been into films and TV and watching YouTube since I watched YouTube since I was like 17, 18 years old. So I know what looks good. And then when I started doing videography as well, videography is not a passion for me. I started videography because it's the only way that enabled me to do the adventures, you know? So when I started that, I kind of had to dissect why stuff looked the way it did, and then, you know, break down the matrix code and trying to make some good videos. So I'm still not where I want to be. Obviously, you said you do a really great job, question. I don't think I do a really great job, but I think that means that you do. Some of my videos absolutely slap and I'm happy with, but it's all, you know, very basic editing techniques. But no, all self-taught. And as I said, it's not my passion, so I'm not majorly looking to improve there. I'm gonna, you know, get someone in to improve the video production quality. For me, it's about, you know, pushing myself physically and mentally in the other domains that you've seen. What's your go-to dance move and can you show me? I'm the guy, you know, the meme with the guy in the corner is like, these guys don't even know how much I can bench. I'm that guy. I'm a professional 2-stepper unless I've had about 17 beers. And then at that point, I don't know what the dance moves are, so there's no way I could show you. And I get drunk now probably like smashed probably like 3 or 4 times a year. If you're lucky to meet me on one of those occasions, I'm sure you'll find out, and then you can let me know. What are your key pillars in your life that drive you to feel fulfilled and live meaningfully? Tough question. Deep question. I think it comes down to 2 major categories. I'm gonna try and not stumble on my words because this is a big answer. One of which would be consistently improving on the previous version of myself. So always having something to aim at, a goal to work towards. It's like Miley Cyrus says, it's about the climb, you know, it's not about the end destination. Like having a mission that I'm constantly pushing myself towards. So obviously that was like my mechanical engineering degree where I just worked and worked and worked to get to that end goal, or bodybuilding where I was like, okay, this is what I want to look like, this is how strong I want to be. And now with like videography, like progressing to a point that you're happy with, and then adventuring as well. Like this summer, one of my major targets is getting my skydiving B license. I'm currently an A license. So, you know, having those tangible things that you can work towards, I think is key for the human psyche. And that's obviously the selfish aspect of that. Then you've got the selfless aspect of that, which is your influence on the people around you and how being the best version of yourself affects your influence on other people. So when I have kids, or if I'm lucky enough to have kids one day, or you know, family or friends or people online like YouTube and Instagram, being able to motivate them as like a more senior figure that's experienced things that they haven't, and adding a bit of depth to their perspective, obviously that aids those things completely as well. So that's what helps make that feel meaningful, because I'm able to bring everyone along with me, hopefully. And then the other key pillar for living meaningfully for me is to do with community. So there's kind of two sides to this again, one of which is like community in terms of building a strong friendship group and a social group and a social network around you. So having that inner circle of friends that you can trust and lean on and like grow together and socialize with. I think obviously we're all social animals, and that's hugely critical for me to feel like I'm living, like to feel fulfilled and living meaningfully, is just having a strong social bond with my close friends and family. And then also the community aspect of my influence online. So trying to build that community online, whether that's on YouTube or Instagram, just people that are aligned with what I'm doing and my viewpoints on stuff. And we can build one big community together of go-getters that, you know, are trying to all improve together. So they're kind of the two pillars that make me feel like I'm on a mission and I'm doing what I should be doing. Do you believe that a guy should have a role model to look up to? Yeah, I don't think should. I think it's necessary, to be honest, for guys to have role models to look up to. If you think back pre-internet, a guy would have a couple of major role models. It would be your father and then other male figures around you that you could look up to and learn what it is to be a man from those people. And now we're in a position, I don't know what country you're from, but in the UK, 2021 was the first year where more children were born out of wedlock than in wedlock in the UK. So 51% of kids were born to unmarried parents and 49% were born to married parents. And that just shows kind of the state of traditional family values and how traditional families are set up in the UK now, which means if you extrapolate that, there's less father figures in a lot of families and a lot of younger men not having a good straight line figure to look up to. And so that's where the internet plays a massive part in helping those people find positive role models for various aspects of their life. And I think it's crucial, otherwise you can be lost. You can be surrounded by, you know, weak men or people that you don't look up to, and then you don't learn what it is to be the best version of yourself. So we're blessed to have the internet for that, and I think it is critical. You have to obviously use your own judgment, because there's so many people out there on the internet, but you can learn various things from various people. Whether you're learning how to be disciplined from someone like Jocko Willink, whether you're learning how to have a really strong mindset from someone like David Goggins, learning how to get your life in order from someone like Jordan Peterson. There's so many role models that you can take little snips of positive things from, and we're kind of blessed to live in that era now. So yeah, I think it's necessary for guys to have role models to look up to, but you don't obviously need one guy for everything. You can outgrow your role models and you can like move towards different people for different things, which is the beauty of the position that we're in now. Biggest advice you would give to someone about life, I think you mean. Very big question. I'm not sure I'm qualified to answer this, but from my perspective, the one thing that I would say is necessary to know from a young age is life's not a dress rehearsal. You get your, whatever it is, 60 to 100 years to do whatever you want with them. So whatever social pressure or family pressure you have to do a certain thing in your life or be a certain way, just completely put it to the side and realize that you have the freedom to choose exactly what you want to do and how you want to live. Say for example, like someone becomes a doctor, let's say their family, their parents always wanted them to be a doctor. They were good at science and they thought that's what they should be doing. They didn't have anything else especially compelling, and so they go through life, you know, they study, they do whatever it is, the 10 years to get there, they become a doctor, and then they look back when they're, you know, 50 years old and they think, I didn't actually want to become a doctor, I only did it because that's what I was supposed to do. Or you could have someone where they're 10 years old and they're thinking, I want to become a doctor, my life's purpose is to help people, I want to dedicate myself to doing this craft, and then they get to 50 and they think, damn, I'm glad I chose that path. I live completely aligned with what I consider my purpose to be. Not that you have to have a specific purpose, but something that you can contribute positively to society, and you're happy with the decision that you made. So you can see what I'm saying, like there's two different perspectives, same outcome, but different motivating factors. So whatever you want to do, just like establish that and don't live for other people, live for yourself. All right, another good one. Do you also struggle with your penis being tiny when you get out of an ice bath? I wouldn't say I struggle, because I'm not actively showing everyone my penis when I get out of an ice bath, but as a mere mortal man, it is a phenomenon that happens to me as it does every other man, I believe. So yeah, I wouldn't worry about that, but I would also try not to show your dick to people when you're fresh out of an ice bath, because it's not going to be your most flattering moment. But yeah, I wouldn't say it's a struggle, it's just a natural phenomenon, my friend. How long do you plan on traveling the world for, and do you ever see yourself settling down? Good question. I plan on like having new experiences and going to different places, obviously, etc., for the rest of my life, I think. But in terms of like this fast-paced traveling that I've been doing for the last year, that's gonna come to an end at some point in the next year from now. Obviously, we've concluded that round one of Southeast Asia, and then now we've done a lot of everything that I wanted to do this time around in sub-Saharan Africa. But obviously, there's so many things like that I can do in each of those locations again. I'm gonna do a big Central and South America trip. I'm not sure exactly what it's gonna look like yet, but it's gonna be intense on challenges rather than just like bumbling around traveling. There'll be a bit of that and like day vlogs, but there's gonna be some intense challenges and stuff to overcome in that continent, which I'm very excited for. And then settling down for sure, like everyone sees the positives. I don't show obviously the negatives. No one ever shows the negatives of traveling. Same with like settling down and being at home. Like people probably watch my videos and think, oh, Adam's got it so easy. All he has to do is just record himself and go traveling, and like nothing's ever difficult. They don't see the times where you're stressed, you're under pressure, or you've got problems to solve where other people crumble and don't do this. Like how many people travel and make videos at the same time? Like it's not as straightforward as it looks. So especially on a budget, like it can get difficult, can get tiring, and it's not what I want my life to look like, you know, in the next 3 years. So I will settle down, as it were, but there will always be adventures, and I'll always be pushing to be physically and mentally the best version of myself. What's your sexual orientation, and how do you think it affects your viewpoint on life and what you do? I'm straight, and I don't know how it affects. I guess it would affect some things. Like a lot of my life decisions are based around wanting to have a family in the future, so obviously like a wife and kids. And so if you were gay or whatever orientation where you weren't going to be able to have a biological family, I guess that impacts the way that you shape your life. But yeah, like kids of my DNA is like quite important to me, hopefully, if I'm lucky enough for that to happen. And so building the empire and the financial security to have a few kids and help them become the best version of themselves obviously comes from being straight to some extent, but that doesn't rule it out obviously for people of other orientations. Also being like quite a traditionally masculine man, and like the things that I do, the adventures, I kind of represent traditional masculinity in a lot of ways. And I think that's less common with people of different hormonal profiles or sexual orientations. Obviously, the more feminine you are, the less inclined you may be to pursue a lot of the interests that I have. So yeah, I guess that's as much insight as I can give into how my sexual orientation impacts what I do. Wish list for places you have yet to travel to. It's a big list. There's a lot. I don't know why I have this thing where I like keeping everything surprises. I'm like, oh shit, Adam's over here now, or he's doing that, or like I don't like people knowing my next move. But there's a big wish list. Obviously, all of the Americas I've not really touched yet. So Central and South America is huge on that list, and I'll give you a little something. Antarctica for sure is something that will be done in the next year, I'm hoping. During your time off traveling, what do you enjoy most doing? It's tough to answer this without it sounding like a French GCSE answer. I like to go to the cinema and play football with my friends. But the time off, like for the last year, has just been flat out like work and travel. So constantly trying to grow the social audience, putting the media out, editing the media, planning for new adventures, completing the adventures. So all of that's been full time. And on that first trip, that 5-month trip that I went on, you know, Southeast Asia and Australia, I watched one movie in that entire time. Like everything was either like active socializing, i.e. to like make friends, enjoy experiences, have people to do stuff with, whatever, or active working, so like on my laptop planning or editing, or like doing adventures. So like there was no like free time, as it were, because it was all with a purpose. But like I said with the social connection thing earlier, like anything involving other people, whether it's, again, it sounds like that GCSE French answer, but anything physical, watching movies, you know, that kind of stuff. But otherwise, like what you see is what you get with me. That's why I'm doing what I'm doing, because all of my highest passions and desires, the YouTube is completely centered around those things. Thoughts on the negatives of influencer/hustler culture? I think they're two different questions. I think you mean hustle culture. I'll start with the influencer side of things. Thoughts on the negatives of influencers? I think we've always had influencers ever since digital media existed. So obviously when that was legacy media, like upwards of like 50 to 100 years ago, that was your movie stars, TV presenters, politicians, things like that. They were technically influencers because you would aspire to some of their traits and qualities. They would appeal to a mass audience, and they would have influencing power, whether that's purchasing power or whatever they might, whatever, you know, political influence or or financial influence, those kinds of things. But now we're in a position where there's no monopoly. It's a complete free market because of the demise of legacy media on who can become an influencer and what an influencer is. So like literally all you need now is if you have the skills or you're compelling enough as an individual, you can, you know, put yourself out there on all social media platforms, become an influencer because of what you offer, whether that's, you know, comedy or information or whatever it may be. And so I think it's a positive that it's a complete free market now, because then the cream rises to the top, you know, like previous people like Jordan Peterson, as I mentioned in a previous answer, has been like a father figure for so many young men in the Western world, and he potentially wouldn't, or definitely wouldn't exist without, if it was only legacy media and there was no internet now. Obviously that means you get, I guess you attract what you want to attract. So you have like the people like the Kardashians and all the other, you know, basic white girl influencers, which are not necessarily positive for anyone. So you have like both sides of the coin, but I think overall, obviously it comes down to the individual and not absolutely beeline for a certain person and become obsessed with a certain influencer. Be rational about all of the information you have available to you and make the correct decisions. I guess that's my insight on that. And in terms of hustle culture, for anyone that doesn't know, it's defined by, obviously I've got no internet connection, I'm going to define it as best as I can. When you're either in a workplace or surrounded by people where you're constantly being pushed to work, like work is the one and only priority. So you're in a workplace where there's no minimal social connection, there's no other like external curricular activities. It's just like, how many hours can you put in a week? What's your output? Bang, 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 bang. That's the main purpose. And then you get the same thing in the self-employed market as well, where, you know, whether it's drop shipping bros or finance bros or whatever it may be, like crypto, if you're not grinding 27 hours a day, you're doing it wrong. If you're not sleeping, you know, the Gary V type thing, like sleeping in your shed or whatever. And there's certainly negatives to that psychologically and positives to it. Because the alternative to that is, obviously the alternative to like grinding all the time and hustling all the time is where so many people in the Western world now have such an easy life, i.e., you know, you don't have to fight for your food. You just walk down, you can earn an okay wage, walk to the supermarket, get enough just for rent in whatever area you are, and just like live comfortably without actually working towards anything grander. And so I think for most people, the healthy outcome is going to be somewhere in between those two things. Obviously, some people just do want an easy life and just want to like float through. Maybe that's actively or subconsciously, that's what they want. But and then you've got other people like Alex Hormozy, who he says business is his #1 priority. He loves the game. What he wants to do is like make money and excel in business. So everything else is second to that. Obviously, still some level of balance in the way that he approaches other aspects of his life, like he's got a partner and I'm sure he has all the fun that he wants to, but like business is his #1. But I think for most people, like business is not going to be your #1, whether you want it to or not. You're going to float somewhere in that region. So those things like, you know, socializing, taking time off with friends, enjoying the moment rather than constantly pushing for more and more and more is where you're going to be happiest. So yeah, don't fall a victim to the, oh, look at how many people there are on social media doing so much better than me, I need to hustle all the time, because that might not bring you as much happiness as you think it will. And realistically, working hard towards goals, but also enjoying the present moment and not stressing out about not being where you want to be, just like enjoying the process of where you are now, I think is going to be the happy medium for most people. How to start filming and talking to camera when you start YouTube or social media. Easy one, I like the easy ones. You do this, mate. There's a button on here, you press and you say, hello, my name's Adam. I like talking to you and I want to be your friend, something along those lines, you know. Like you're gonna, like, I'm being obviously satirical, but that is how you have to start. You just watch my first video. It's funny how bad it is. I knew that would be the case when I did it. No, I don't know how this journey is going to go. I don't know how good I'm going to get at YouTube or where we're going to end up, but I want that first video to show like, this is where I'm at now. I can barely talk to a camera. Like it's all like, no confidence there at all. And it's just a funny video. It's nice to have a starting point. So you're going to start, you're going to be rubbish. You're going to stumble over your words. I still stumble over my words unless I know what I'm going to say. Initially, I would have to like have a script and then like follow it in order to not stumble. Now, as long as I know what I'm going to say, the words just flow, because that pressure of having the camera on you comes off. It's like public speaking. Like initially you start and your heart's going at 200 beats per minute. I remember that when I was like 12 years old doing my first public speaking in front of people. And then now I can speak in front of like 50, 100 people without even batting an eyelid. So it's just practice, and you're going to be rubbish, but just if you want to, then just start and see how you end up, and don't care what people think, because anyone that judges you is judging you from beneath you. Like, no one that's doing better than you is going to laugh at you, because they know what it takes to get there. So the only people that are going to be like, haha, you're embarrassing yourself or whatever, they're the ones that aren't actually doing anything with their lives. So that's why they want to kind of tall poppy, it's called tall poppy syndrome, where they try and bring you down because you're like floating above the rest of the crop. So yeah, if you can ignore that criticism, just be rubbish initially, and then gradually you'll get better over time. After every piece of content that you put out, and there will be, like, you'll put it out and you'll be like, that was bad, why did I do it like that? But only because you have the hindsight to look at it. So maybe the audio wasn't as good as it should have been and you didn't know at the time, the framing wasn't right, you'll pick up on certain ways of speaking that you have that aren't optimal and like detract from the message. So every time, or like if it's YouTube, like a slightly better thumbnail, slightly better titles, just try and improve on something every time, and there will always be something to improve on. How do you keep your body so fit and maintain all the time? Any diet and exercise tips? Now you'd think that I paid this guy to say that, but I didn't. He said that all on his own, Ronnie, so thank you very much for asking. Lucky for you, mate, I've made a list of my top 10 tips to stay in shape while traveling. So all of the knowledge that I've accrued over this past year of trying to stay in shape while on the move consistently, as well as my 9 years of lifting, putting all that knowledge together and all of the 10 main levers that I use in order to stay in shape, I've documented very concisely into a PDF, and the link for that will be in the description of this video. It's also in my story highlights and my bio on Instagram, so you can put your email in there, sign up, and it will go straight to your inbox, and you'll be able to see that list of my 10 major levers for staying in shape and maintaining my shape while traveling. And even if you're not in the shape that you want to be in yet, in terms of like physical fitness, the mentality that you can pick up from those 10 points will benefit you in building the muscle to get to the point that you want to be in anyway. So it's valuable for everyone. And when you sign up as well, obviously you can unsubscribe straight away if you want to. I haven't started the newsletter yet, but I'm going to be doing a newsletter. I don't know the cadence exactly yet, but it will be entirely about mindset tips and some fitness tips that I've learned through whatever that previous time period was. So I've already got a backlog of about 10 I'm going to write up and start to distribute, but any like major tips that I think from wisdom that I've accrued that I can help share with other people, I'll be delivering that by email completely for free as well. So yeah, free value, there you go. Do you take any supplements for working out? Now not so much, well, when I'm traveling not so much, but in general. Also, that's another point, like, don't necessarily do exactly what influencers or people you aspire to look like are doing, because I don't have the same goals as you. Your goal is probably to build muscle. My goal is not. My goal is to maintain muscle while doing other things. So what I'm doing shouldn't necessarily be what you're doing. But there were 4 supplements that I took for the like 4 major years that I was trying to get bigger. One of them is protein powder. I'm sponsored by Bulk currently, and I have the links down below. You can get 45% off their website. You can use obviously my link, and then you can use the code ADAMR, ADAMR, and that will get you a discount on the vast majority of things. So I use their vegan blend, and I've always used their vegan blend because I went vegan in 2015 to 2019. I stopped in 2019, and so I just carried on using that protein because I think it's good. And then so that's number 1. And why do I take protein as well? Like, you need to dissect the macros in what your food is. Like, that protein has no more value than 20-25 grams of protein from another source. If that was meat or egg white or whatever, obviously it's a more complete protein source because they make sure the amino acid profile is perfect. But yeah, use it as an extra lever to get a bit more protein in the day, or if it's like your meal timing is an issue, say you finish in the gym but it's 2 hours till dinner, you can have your protein shake after and then have your dinner after that. The second thing that I took was 5 grams of creatine a day consistently for like 2 or 3 years. No, more, like 3 or 4 years actually. Now I don't so much because I'm eating more red meat, and when I'm traveling it's a faff to always take creatine, but when I'm at home, 5 grams of creatine a day. And then 2 other things. When I was vegan, I took a vegan omega-3 supplement, but that's not an issue now at all because I had some joint issues, but now completely gone, having a balanced diet, so not necessary. And then I take still a vegan multivitamin, again because I started taking it when I was vegan. I have no reason not to take the same one now, and it's just like all the vitamins under the sun, just to keep you topped up on anything that you're not hitting your targets on. So again, you can get those vitamins from Bulk as well. And purchasing through my links and using my code does help me as well, because it shows I'm an attractive ambassador of the brand. So if you could do that and support me, that does really help. What's the watch you're always wearing, and is it solar powered? This one is, in the watch community, it's called the Cassie Oak because it looks like the Audemars Piguet Royal Oak, obviously the shape of it. The actual reference is CA 2100, I think, and it's just like the black version with a bit of white on it. And it's not solar powered, it's quartz battery powered. What the hell, I've got some spots. Look at that. Obviously brushed against something and had a reaction, but should be okay. That's the nature of doing Q&As in the jungle. what was I saying? It's battery powered, it's not solar powered, and I wear this when I'm traveling because it isn't like flashy. Obviously there's no metal, it's just a black plastic watch. It's completely like rough and ready to go. I can wear it in the sea, I can wear it anywhere, and then it doesn't draw attention to myself to make me like a theft target. So yeah, I do love this thing. How old were you when you first started your solo travel journey, and how does that make you who you are? I was 25, so just under a year ago, and I'm 26 now. And I think that, what does it make me? It makes me very confident, because obviously you have to like rock up on your own, whether that's like at a bus station or on an airport or in a hostel. And in a hostel, obviously you got to make friends. So you're very confident in terms of like chatting to people, asking for directions or making friends or whatever. Like previously, I remember going on holiday with my mate Aaron when we were, we must have been like 19 or something, and we would like, you know, go up and I'd be like, I talked to a girl in the common area, and we'd be like, yeah, fist bump kind of thing, because it was an actual thing, like, you know, overcoming that social anxiety to speak to people. So when you solo travel, like that just gets, that exposure therapy just blasts things out the water, and you become very confident and less self-conscious in any time you're communicating with people, which is fantastic. And I think the camera obviously has something to do with that as well, because I'm constantly having to talk to a bigger and bigger audience. And the other thing I would say is probably problem solving. So it might not seem like it, and unless you've solo traveled, you wouldn't know, but you're solving, especially when you're moving from location to location, up to 100 problems a day in some cases. Little things that go wrong, like you don't have signal and you need to access this or that, how to get yourself out of a situation. It's very good for keeping you sharp. This one says, giveaway please. What do you want me to give away, mate? I'm running out of money here. I can't give you anything. That's kind of a lie. So there's two giveaways, things that I'm giving away. One is obviously that newsletter and that reading list of the top 10 tips to stay in shape while traveling. It took me a lot of time and effort and mistakes to make that list, so there's some real good value in there if you want to sign up for that, obviously for free as well. And then another thing, I should announce it now because it's good timing. I'll probably have announced it on Instagram already. I'm going to do a meetup in London this summer in July. I'll be hanging out with my mates in the park playing spike ball, and there'll be like snacks provided. I'm gonna get loads of bulk protein bars and stuff in, and like Powerades and stuff. Meet in a park in London. If you want to come, if you're based in England, then check out if you're free on that day, and you can, you know, like hang out with me and my mates for a day, a sunny day in London. Get involved and we'll hang out. And yeah, it'll be the 15th of July, so get yourself down there and we can hang out. The sun's peeking through this tree, so I'm gonna move a bit closer to the camera. Your home country, tropical and hot desert weather, which one you love the most? I think honestly home country in summer, like the dry heat that you get. It's similar in Namibia and similar in Cape Town as well, like less humid but like nice sun, and it means like 22 degrees is hot, you know? It doesn't need to be 30 degrees for you to be enjoying and sunbathing. So I reckon home country in the summer, to be honest, but like winter for sure, get me somewhere else. So tropical's nice, but at the moment this is tropical climate in Zanzibar, and you always feel, you have to just accept the sweat. You're always going to be sweaty. It's not ideal. It's just like really, you know, close and humid, so it's not that nice for feeling fresh and doing work, but like for going out and having adventures, it's fun. And then hot desert, deserts are sick for the landscape, not necessarily for the climate, but Jordan and Namibia were both quite just dry heat, so it was actually very pleasant. Yeah, I like a tropical adventure, and I like a British, less humid adventure as well. Do you recycle at home, or you just mix everything as garbage? Well, in England you have to recycle. I think it's illegal if you don't. When you're traveling, like some of these countries are so far behind, obviously developing countries, but even when I was in Cape Town they don't recycle at all, which is like really makes you cringe when you have to put plastic and metal in with the food, and like cardboard in with the food. Sorry, not with the food, with the other waste. So that's not ideal at all. But yes, I recycle at home, as most, I think everyone does in England. We've been doing it for years. Greatest achievement this year so far? That would have to be not the fact I climbed Kili, but the fact that on Kilimanjaro, the fact that on day 3 I had severe nausea from going up to 4,600 meters so quickly that I couldn't eat for the next 48 hours. I threw up 7 times the first night and twice the night after that, and it was a horrible experience. Like the fact that I was 10:30 p.m. the night before I had to go another 600 meters higher, that I was throwing up outside my tent, couldn't keep any dinner down, felt horrific. But like my body was saying, the one thing you need to do to solve this is just get down the mountain, but that was the one thing I couldn't do. A, because it was too dark to even do it at that time. If it was daytime, maybe it would have been a different story, but I was like in the tent throwing up, couldn't get any water down me, and I was like, tomorrow I have to climb even higher. And now I've got, you know, thousands of people expecting me to climb Kilimanjaro, and because I'm throwing up, I'm not going to do it. So the fact that I overcame that, like I woke up the next morning and I felt like okay. I wasn't throwing up anymore, which is the main thing. Got like 5 hours sleep, and then pushed on to the next height. Threw up again that night, but then like I was like, okay, we only have to do another 200 meters the next day, so then did that, survived, and then just like absolutely gritted my teeth and got on with it, even though I had no food for almost 4 days in total. And what I didn't mention in the Kilimanjaro video, like the way I finished it, I was meant to do 7 days, but I did 6 days in the end. So my pacing to get to the summit was the 7-day Machami route, but I did it in 6 days because we started the summit ascent at midnight that night, got to the top for sunrise, and then I was back down to base camp, which was like 4,600. I was like, I can't stay here because I can't eat any food at this altitude. My stomach just doesn't want to eat. I could barely drink the water because it was treated with the tablets and my stomach was just in bits. So I went all the way down, like all the way up and all the way down, back to the base of the mountain to like 1,000 meter altitude in a single day. So that was just pure determination because I needed to get a Fanta and some water in me. And so yeah, that was probably my proudest, was like overcoming that adversity. That's a long answer. How do you remove body hair? Infrequently, as you can tell. I shave with like a beard trimmer, like I guess it's Philips beard trimmer, and I don't remove it, like I don't Veet or anything like that. I just beard trim down to like 0.4 mil on my face and on my chest. And yeah, then I do probably my chest every once a month, and I do my face. This has been 9 days, but normally I do once a week. At least once a week. Rattling through these, I'm enjoying this as well. I do love these videos. I'm going to do them slightly more frequently. Well, if I got followers more frequently than I would subscribers, then I'd do them more often. Next one, do you have any plans for South America or Greenland? Yeah, covered that already. South America, yes. Greenland, no. That's very specific. Are you from Greenland, James? I don't know. Do you ever wish you were traveling with a partner? Pros and cons of both. Like, yes, I love traveling with, I need to travel with people, right? But that doesn't necessarily mean that you need the same partner for everything that you do. So when I first went to Southeast Asia, in the Philippines and Indonesia, I knew no one the whole time, but because it was like touristy season, you've always got tourists there. You meet people in the hostels, you have people to do stuff with, so you don't need a partner, because like whenever you actually need people to do stuff with, you know, you meet them and you share individual experiences with individual people, and it's nice to have that. Like, I've got those like pockets of memories with certain people where I'm like, hey, remember when we did this? And I've got another person I can go to, remember when we did this. But it does mean that if you're trying to travel in places where there's less tourists, so for example on this trip I plan to go to Mozambique and Zimbabwe, but they're not majorly touristy and I didn't have anyone to go with for those locations. So long story short, because I fell in love with Cape Town, I'm going to go back there, and I'm going to do Mozambique in the future anyway. But yeah, you either need like a partner, well, I either need like a partner in terms of, like Matt came and we did the Namibia road trip together. I wouldn't have done that on my own, so I'm very grateful that I had that opportunity to do that with a partner. And likewise, when you're in Asia, you like meet individual people. So yeah, I mean, I do travel with partners, but it would be nice sometimes to do it with one consistent partner, and I think that might be what South America will look like, but we'll see how things go. But again, you develop so much more as a person when you do it solo, so I wanted to do it solo first time around, and I'm glad I did it solo. But in terms of making the content as well, like a partner is important, because I'm not really traveling now. I'm like content creating, adventuring while on the move, you know? I'm not just chilling in hostels and doing whatever, wherever the wind blows me. What are your top 3 tips on planning for future destinations? Difficult question. I don't know if I have 3 tips for planning for future destinations, but I certainly have one major tip, which is make sure you do everything in the right order. First, for me, is always like ballpark financials. How is it gonna look? So look roughly when you're gonna go at flights, see what the cheapest kind of flight options are, see if it's within budget. And then also for me, it's like, I've used Google Maps a lot, and I just put pins in places where I'm interested in going. So like in certain countries, maybe I'll have like 10 pins or 20 pins. Another country I have 2 pins. And for example, Malaysia, when I went to Malaysia, I had no intention of going there. When I left England, I had no intention of going to Malaysia, but I went because I learned, obviously through my trip, I was like, oh, there's Borneos in Malaysia, I could go there. So then you like put the pin there, and then I learned about Sipadan Island, which was one of the best dive sites in the world. And so at that point I was like, okay, we got orangutans, we got Sipadan, and then I looked and there was like almost the highest mountain in Southeast Asia, Mount Kinabalu. So I was like, okay, sweet, we've got 3 things now, like I've got to go to that country. It's too special to miss. And so yeah, having like rough itinerary of stuff you want to do, rough idea of cost, and then you're away. Because I'll always do, you know, flights and activities first, and then I'll do accommodation after that. Obviously look ballpark roughly what the accommodation figures are, and just go from there, and then everything else kind of trickles into place, like your transportation when you get there. Obviously food you don't even worry about until the day. So yeah, that's kind of the way I go about things. What's the biggest lesson your travels have taught you this far? I think it would be So another big one, another huge question, and I don't know if this is the biggest, but this is the first thing that comes to mind, is that when you're in everyday life and like you're in a work environment, or you know, you're doing the same job 5 days a week and then you on the weekends 2 days a week, stuff goes wrong, you have a bad week, stuff gets better, maybe you have like a bad couple of weeks and then stuff is good for a bit, but everything's kind of like a much slower pace. So you get into a bit of a rut, then you come out of the rut, you're motivated again, you go back into the rut. When you're traveling, because everything's so fast paced, you're like bang, location, activity, work, whatever it may be, stuff goes wrong quick and stuff gets better quick as well. So it's nice to have that to rely on and hold on to as like a point of reference and an anchor when you go back into like a slower pace of life. So I know that when I'm traveling, I can have a really bad day now and I'm like, okay, this is just a bad day, this is just part of it. I don't know how long it's going to last, I don't really care how long it's going to last. I'm just going to do what I can do in the meantime and wait for the momentum to shift back in my favor again. And I know I'm going to have fun again and like stuff's going to get better, the problem's going to get solved, it's not the end of the world. Yeah, the traveling and the pace of the traveling has really helped me bring that back into my everyday life as well. So it's been a good thing for me, and hopefully people can either learn just from my lesson, but obviously experiencing it for yourself is going to be the strongest catalyst for learning that lesson. And the one video that I would point you to that I'm referring to, where you can see this mindset absolutely manifest in me, is when my bike got stolen in Ubud in Bali. It was stolen and I was like 950 pounds out of pocket. Long story, but I didn't let it affect the next day. So that day I had a sick day at Kretja, the pool club, and then went and climbed Mount Agung at midnight and did 20 hours without sleep. So like 2 incredible memories from traveling that I didn't let that negative thing, that huge financial cost and like mental cost, affect me from having fun. So yeah, go and watch that because it's like really raw in the moment pieces to camera of like where my mindset was that day. Do you think you can achieve the same God-bod as of Chris Hemsworth? Now there's a couple of ways to take this, my friend. One is, I think you don't realise that Chris Hemsworth takes steroids, and he has done for a few years now, but I also think I have a better physique than Chris did in like the first Thor movie, for example. So I think that's technically a God-bod, so already achieved, I'd like to think. But if you look at him in like the most recent Thor movies, obviously there's some serious sauce going on there. But I think if you compare like me naturally to him naturally, I reckon I could be bigger than him on the sauce, but I'm not going to take gear, so there's your answer to that. All right, we're pretty much done. I've got 2 more questions I'm going to do. One is top 3 destination that you visited. Really tough, and I don't like ranking things because a place is made by the people in a lot of cases, and like there's so many incredible experiences. I don't want to say these are the best 3 and everything else is subpar to that, because there's positive aspects from everything anyway. Stop talking at them. But countries that I love the most and had the most like cherished adventurous memories would probably be Indonesia, Philippines, Albania, Namibia, and Jordan as well. Like those countries are all pretty cool. So if you can get yourself to any of those, I think you'll have a good time. And obviously you can use my videos as a reference of stuff you may want to do or may not want to do. The final question, on a scale of 1 to 10, where are you now from where you want to be? Lots of ways to answer this, but I think the healthiest way to answer that is like, the answer is 10, and the reason for that is simple. You're always going to have stuff that you're aiming towards or stuff that you can improve. Like I said in a recent Instagram caption, like your brain's a problem solving machine. You'll always find problems. You're never going to feel like you're at a 10 and you've achieved everything you want. But the knowledge that you're working towards your goals and on that journey is enough to live happily in the moment and keep progressing towards what you want to do. So like having that contentment in the moment, but also working towards your goals. And I think that, you know, that puts you at a 10, because like nothing's always perfect. I'm certainly not where I want to be in terms of like a lot of the motivations that I've mentioned in this video already, but I don't need to be there now in order to feel good, because I'm working towards them. I'm putting the work in, and we'll see how life turns out. So yeah, 10. I'm happy with where I'm at, and we'll see what happens. And I think that's a healthy way to do it. All right, complete. Very happy with that. 9K subscriber. Hope you enjoyed the Q&A. Like I said, I love filming them, and I've only done 3 so far. It's like once every 3 months, so hopefully I can do a few more in the near future. Hope you enjoyed the video, found some nuggets of wisdom. I'm gonna break the 4th wall already. I'm literally talking to a camera, so I've already broken the 4th wall, but I'm gonna show you like the entire set now from here. Watch this. Take the camera off. Literally paradise, look at that. So yeah, in Zanzibar currently. So I've got a couple of Zanzibar videos on the way in this paradise. Thank you very much for watching this one. Hopefully you enjoyed it. If you're new to the channel, obviously subscribe, you know that already. I've asked you enough already, so I'm not going to ask you again. But there's so many videos that I've like put so much effort into on my channel. So have a scroll down, click on the channel, see what interests you, and then you'll learn a bit more about me, about what I do, and enjoy some of the adventures with me. Thanks a bunch for watching this one, and I'll see you on the next adventure.